Hey friends, Elizabeth here from Plant-Based Bride, and welcome to the first ever episode of Coffee Talk. This is a brand new series I want to do on my channel, starting off every other Wednesday morning. So every other week on Wednesday mornings, I will be here with a cup of coffee chatting about whatever is on my mind, whatever is on your minds. Please let me know in the comments down below topics you would like me to discuss in the future. I just really wanted a place where I could come to have, really meaningful conversations with all of you. I think one of my absolute favorite things about having a platform, however small, is the ability to connect to other people. Being able to connect on a one-on-one human level with all of you has been so incredible and definitely has been the most meaningful part of having a YouTube channel. So my idea behind this series is just for it to be very casual, for us to be hanging out and getting to know each other. I really would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I love having discussions with all of you. So I don't just want to be, speaking into a void, speaking to my camera without any kind of feedback. I want this to be a discussion. And the concept of this video is twofold, or it came from two places. The first place is that I saw Kaylin Nicholson here on YouTube. She's a fellow Toronto YouTuber who created a similar concept for daily morning videos on her second channel using this kind of format. And I really liked that idea. And while I definitely can't do these every morning, I wanted to incorporate it into my channel. And the second reason why I really wanted to do this is that I have always found that I connect best with people over a cup of coffee. There's something about sitting down face to face with someone at a coffee shop. I actually just did this morning. I went out for coffee with a college friend of mine. I don't think we've seen each other for almost a year now, but basically whenever we see each other, it's because we meet up for coffee, we grab our coffee, sit down face to face, and we catch up on life. And we talk about whatever's on our minds and just really connect on a human level. And it was really nice to see him this morning. It's really nice to be able to talk about a whole host of things. We talked about acting. We went to musical theater college together. So we talked about acting and film and media, but we also talked about feelings and emotions and our intimate relationships with our respective significant others. We, talked about physics and space, the vastness of the universe. And I always just feel like grabbing a cup of coffee with someone is just such a good way to get to know them as a human to human. So that's what I want this series to be. And I'm hoping to keep these videos pretty short, hopefully under 10 minutes. This one may go a little bit over since I wanted to do a little bit of a introduction on what the series is in case you haven't seen me talk about this before. So let's get down to it without further ado. Today in this first coffee talk, I want to chat a little bit about the most life-changing thing that I have learned personally in my time in therapy. I'm not gonna get into my history with mental health in this video. I have made past videos discussing it. I'll link some of them down below if you want some more context. But suffice to say, I have been in therapy for a couple years now. Sometimes I'm really regular about it and I'm going every single week. Sometimes I kind of drop off and I don't go for a few months. It really depends on what's going on in my life. But I have been trying to be relatively consistent with therapy because I can see the tangible differences that it makes in my life. And there are lots of things that I've learned in therapy and lots of things that I'm continuing to learn in therapy. But the one thing that I have really taken in and has really had a huge impact on my life is this, that my feelings are valid. And this applies to you too. Your feelings are valid. This is something that took a lot of repetitions for me to understand, so I don't blame you if no one has told you this before. And it's possible that no one has because it was probably 25 years or so before anyone told me this. But if no one's told you, it may take you some time to fully incorporate this into your life and to fully, truly believe and understand this. But it is true, your feelings are valid. Every single feeling you ever feel is valid, and you are allowed to feel it. Not only are you allowed to feel it, but you don't have a choice. You feel your feelings before you can even conceptualize, before you can name the feeling you have, you're feeling it already. And that's just how we work. That's what it means to be human. And it's not shameful, it's not wrong to have emotions and to feel them freely. So that is the number one thing that I have learned in therapy that has had the biggest impact on my life, the most life-changing thing. And this is why. I am an incredibly sensitive person. I am very, very empathetic, emotional, and sensitive. So when I feel things, I feel them very strongly, very, very strongly. And this can be a good thing. And as I get older, I understand how beautiful it is to be an emotional being and to be a sensitive person. I'm coming more and more to terms with that part of myself and recognizing kind of how central that trait is to who I am as a person and to what I am able to bring to the world as a unique individual. But the way our society treats emotions and treats people who feel deeply can be very harmful to those of us who do have those deep feelings. So growing up, I have to give a caveat. I love my family. I love my parents. I love my sister. They're great. But I had the experience growing up that I was very emotional. I was a very sensitive child. I flipped between emotions pretty quickly. I felt things strongly and I would react and I would express things immediately. As soon as I felt happy, I was expressing it 100%. As soon as I felt sad, I was expressing it 100%. And the kind of reaction that I got from my immediate family to that was a reaction of, this is too much, you need to control this. So what I learned as a child was that my natural tendency to feel and express my emotions strongly and fully and honestly, that was wrong, that was inappropriate. And in growing up, this was only reinforced because the way our society views emotions is so counterproductive, in my personal opinion. So women and men are treated differently, I find, and I know this is a bit of a binary perspective. I would love to know if you're watching this and you don't identify as a man or a woman, if you're non-binary, for example, or gender fluid. I would love to know your thoughts and experiences in how society treats you and sort of the emotional side of you or your emotional expression, because I find this very interesting. But I can only really speak to my experience as a woman, as a cis woman in society, how I have had my emotions treated. And also I can speak to a certain extent to the cis male experience from my husband's perspective and having had many discussions with him on this topic. From what I can see, it feels like society really focuses on repression. And it feels different. It feels like the way society treats men's emotions and how it treats women's emotions are different. But at the end of the day, they result in the same thing, which is a feeling of shame over our emotions and the impulse to repress our emotions, which is not healthy, because you will always feel your emotions eventually. They will always come out, and usually they will be amplified by the fact that you repressed them for however long and didn't deal with them in the moment. So in my personal experience, women's emotions are often trivialized. There is a stereotype that women are incredibly emotional and sensitive, that we're overly emotional and sensitive, which I would argue doesn't exist. I don't believe it is possible to be overly emotional or overly sensitive. There's just a spectrum of how sensitive or emotional you are, and that's just how life is. But there is this stereotype that women are going to be emotional, they're going to be highly emotional and or overly emotional, and that it's embarrassing or silly. There's a lot of a feeling of a patronizing sort of reaction to women and their emotions, minimizing the emotions, and overall a feeling of like, it's not professional for you to be emotional in a work environment, or even, in an environment with friends or out in public or whatever. You're only allowed to show your true emotions or the true scale or scope of your emotions around a select few, and only if they're in the mood to deal with it, sort of thing. So it's very much a feeling of repress your emotions for women, in my experience. And for men, I think it's a similar thing. Men are expected to be less emotional than women. That is sort of the stereotype. And when they do show emotion, they are ridiculed, they're called weak. And again, this results in men feeling like they have to repress their emotions. They have to be stoic, and that it's unprofessional or it's unmanly for them to have feelings and to express them, which is silly because men and women and people of other genders are all human and we all have emotions. And the healthiest thing for us to do is to feel our emotions. I mean, we don't have a choice in that. You just feel your emotions when they happen, but feel our emotions. Allow yourself to experience your emotion when it happens. Acknowledge it. It can be helpful to name it. Sometimes that's really hard to do, but if you feel kind of a complex emotion, to be able to identify the individual emotions you're feeling, identify the cause, and then find how you are going to deal with it. And obviously there are times that you really can't take the time to work through it right in that moment. If you're in the middle of an important meeting, you might not be able to break down and cry through your feelings and really work through them. Sometimes it just really isn't possible. But at the closest, soonest interval that you can take time to yourself or with someone, with a support if you need it, with your therapist, and work through, talk through, experience your emotions and sort through them. This is so much of a healthier way to deal with your emotions than to bottle them up and to ignore them and let them fester until they just explode at a later date. That is the most life-changing thing that I have learned in therapy, is that my feelings are valid. I am not wrong or broken or inadequate or any other word that society or people in my life have used to describe me over the years. I am just me, and my emotions are part of my human experience. And that's a beautiful thing. And accepting that and allowing myself to feel my feelings to their full depth has really had a lasting, incredibly positive impact on my life. So that is something that I would ask you to consider. If you've never really thought about this before, I really encourage you to take some time and really process it and consider it. For some of you, this may be really obvious and you may think it's silly to make a whole video talking about this, but for those of us who have grown up having the repression model of dealing with your emotions kind of pressed on us over and over, it can be really difficult to break out of that and to accept that emotions are not a bad thing, that strong emotions are not a bad thing, and that there really are no bad emotions. There are just a wide array of emotions, and they all have their purpose, and they all, can have a positive impact on our lives. So that is what I want to leave you with. Your feelings are 100% valid, and I want you to remember that. Please let me know in the comments below any of your thoughts on this topic. Let me know other important lessons that you have learned in therapy, if you have been to therapy, or just your thoughts on this idea in general, on experiencing your feelings and allowing yourself to feel your feelings. And also don't forget to leave topic suggestions or requests for future Coffee Talk videos. Like I said, I'm going to be attempting to post these every other Wednesday morning. So twice a month, every other Wednesday, Coffee Talks. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for the first Coffee Talk. I hope you enjoyed this one. Definitely give the video a like if you did, it really helps me out. And I'll see you very soon in my next video on Saturday. Bye, friends. If you want to buy me a coffee for my next Coffee Talk video, consider joining my Patreon. Welcome to our newest squad members, Anne-Marie, Shosani, Kate, and Patricia. Thank you so much for your support.